My name is Annie Vale, 29 years old. When Marcus and I returned from our honeymoon, the house seemed to breathe differently, warmer, more alive, like it had been waiting for us. Harper and Henry, his parents, had set up a modest little welcome in the living room. Fresh lilies in a vase, a spread of crackers and cheese, Harper's neat touch on every surface. I wanted to believe it was only for us, though a part of me always suspected she curated every corner of her life like this, as if appearances alone could guarantee happiness. But it wasn't Harper who made the place feel like home. It was Nana, Marcus's 80-year-old grandmother, shuffling from the hallway with her cane, her eyes still bright with mischief. "Welcome back, sweetheart," she said, her voice thin but lively. "I brought out your favorite, sea salt toffee." I hugged her gently, inhaling the faint lavender scent clinging to her scarf. You remembered. From my bag, I pulled a small embroidered pouch filled with lavender candies and a cotton scarf I'd stitched on the flight home. "Something for you." Her eyes lit, her wrinkled fingers tracing the fabric. "You've got a heart stitched with gold, Annie." She squeezed my hand, and Marcus laughed beside me. "Told you she'd love it." The moment felt suspended, almost safe, until the click of heels sliced through it. Sienna breezed in, Luke's wife, the eldest daughter-in-law, and the one who always managed to take up more space than the room offered. She carried a glossy stack of envelopes and the scent of expensive perfume. "Just dropping off birthday invites for Mom," she said lightly, already halfway toward the door. "Oh, come in," Harper called, beaming. "Annie and Marcus just got back." Sienna's eyes flicked toward me, her smile polite but shallow, like a storefront window that never opened. I offered her a small gift bag, a little something from Santorini. She peeked inside. "Oh, looks like something you'd find at an airport kiosk." A laugh, airy but sharp. Then, lowering her tone. "Also, Annie, you probably shouldn't call me by my first name anymore. We're sisters-in-law now. Family titles matter." She slid the stack of envelopes onto the table with a theatrical pat, each invitation embossed with gold script, her initials twined in the corner. I forced a smile. "Of course." The door clicked shut behind her. Nana tilted her head toward me. "That girl wears sugar like armor." I smiled weakly and busied myself helping Harper with plates, but my chest burned. A week later, we gathered for Harper's birthday at a vineyard bistro that looked like it had been built for photographs. Gleaming glasses, wrought iron chairs, roses climbing the pergola. I tried to ground myself in the smell of baked bread and oak barrels, but Sienna's laughter kept cutting through the air like silverware clinking too hard. The gifts began. When Sienna slid a pale pink box across the table, all eyes followed. Harper opened it, gasping at the Madison and Fifth handbag inside, easily worth $1,000. "Oh my, Sienna, this is stunning." Sienna flashed her perfect teeth. "We thought it would suit someone as stylish as you." Then Harper turned to me. "Annie, sweetie, you brought something too?" My pulse thudded as I placed my gift, wrapped in floral paper and string, onto her lap. She unfolded the mint green apron with satin trim, her eyes widening. "Did you make this?" I nodded, voice catching. "You once said aprons always looked frumpy. I wanted to make one that fit your taste." For a heartbeat, silence. Then Harper beamed. "It's gorgeous. And you remembered the color." Relief loosened my shoulders until Sienna chimed in, voice dripping with honey. "You're definitely good with your hands. I'm jealous." But her eyes glittered with something else entirely. The table moved on, but when I excused myself to the restroom, I caught Sienna's reflection already waiting in the mirror. Arms crossed. "You really thought a homemade apron would land in the same league as my gift?" She gave a short laugh. "It's cute, like 7th grade home ec cute." She mimed gagging, pinching her nose. "Honestly, if I stand too close, I feel like I'll catch your taste." I froze, soap dripping from my fingers. "Why are you doing this?" She tilted her head, smirk curling. "Because in this family, impressions matter. You'll learn to curate yourself, or you'll get cropped out." Her words lingered long after she strutted out, heels echoing down the hall. Back at the table, Harper toasted with sparkling wine, oblivious. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table, though he never saw the sharp edges of Sienna's smile when no one was looking. Later, while Harper collected gifts into neat stacks, Nana touched my arm. "Come sit with me." We retreated to her room at the end of the hall, a sanctuary of soft blankets, dried flowers, and framed black and white photos. She poured tea with slow precision, her hands steady despite her age. That one, she said, nodding toward the photo of her late husband. He could see straight through people. Smiles, pretenses, everything. She looked at me then, her gaze quiet but piercing. So can I swallowed. You think she wears sugar as armor? Yes, but don't let it fool you. The music box on her dresser began to play, a lilting tune of tinny bells. It was the kind of sound that filled silence without making noise, the kind of sound that softened rooms. But then, a faint creak from the hallway. The melody faltered as the gears wound slower. Nana's eyes flicked toward the door, where a sliver of shadow moved against the light. She raised her voice just slightly, steady but pointed. Family isn't about names, Annie. It's about behavior. I held my breath. Outside, a hushed laugh, almost swallowed. Then footsteps retreating. The music box ticked once and stopped. Something inside me clicked with it. Part fear, part resolve. I realized then that this house, no matter how warm it felt, had rooms that listened. And some of those rooms had teeth. The announcement came like confetti that didn't know whether to celebrate or suffocate. We were all gathered in Harper and Henry's living room. Vases refreshed, cushions reset, the room dressed like a hostess who never took off her pearls, when Luke cleared his throat and tugged Sienna closer by the hand. "We've got news," he said, grin easy, eyes softer than I'd seen in months. "We're expecting." Harper cried out first, bright and bird-like. Henry's face opened into a grin that made the corners of his eyes fold into little sunbursts. Nana clapped once and then twice, her cane leaning against the coffee table like a quiet witness. Marcus hugged his brother, and for a moment the room glowed, in a way you wish you could bottle for the bad days. Sienna dabbed at her eyes with a tissue that didn't have a single tear on it. "We're beyond excited," she said, voice delicate, choosing a seat where light from the window fell across her cheekbones like a spotlight. Then she laughed modestly, looking down. "It's just, new chapters come with logistics." Henry tilted his head. "Logistics?" Sienna's gaze drifted around the room, landing on the hallway that led to the guest room and Nana's door. "We were thinking that after the baby is born, it might be easier to stay here for a little while. We could even help renovate, our treat. It would be healthier to be close, for the baby." Harper's smile flickered, pride, worry, calculation. "Oh, darling, that's very generous. But wouldn't it get cramped?" Sienna softened her voice. "We wouldn't want to be a burden. It's just, a newborn changes everything. The costs, the sleep, the stability." She let the last word linger like perfume. "If money is the issue—" "Not at all," Henry cut in, still kind but firmer. "If it's about affording a place, we're happy to help with that. You should have your own space. Babies need quiet. So do grandmothers." He glanced at Nana, who smiled into her tea. The tiniest tension pulled at Sienna's mouth. "Of course," she murmured, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "We only want what's best for everyone." Luke squeezed her shoulder, oblivious to the thread Sienna had tried to tie between generosity and leverage. For half a second, her eyes met mine. The sugar on her smile didn't stick. Later, while the others drifted toward the kitchen, I stayed behind to gather abandoned napkins. Sienna slipped back in, the hush of her perfume announcing her before the whisper of her heels. She leaned an elbow on the mantel as if it were a lectern, and I the congregation. "Well," she said, voice low and lilting, "that went better than expected." I folded a napkin. "Did it?" She leaned closer, smile precise. "The house smells like cedar and regret. I didn't want to live here. I just needed a down payment, Annie. It's called strategy." She tapped her temple with one manicured nail. "You'll learn." I held my breath, the napkin twisting in my hands. "And to think," she added, that bright little giggle catching on the word like a hook, "God gave me the first baby." I guess he knew who the real daughter-in-law was. The room narrowed around me. My throat went cold as if I'd swallowed ice. Only Marcus and Nana knew about the miscarriage, the smallness of that room in the clinic, the way I stared at the ceiling tile shaped like a star and tried to believe in anything. I had not told Harper. I had not told Henry. I hadn't said the word aloud since. "How do you—" The sentence broke off before I could finish it. Sienna's smirk deepened. "You whisper louder than you think." She lifted her chin toward the hallway. Some rooms have very long memories. We stood there, the house listening. Then she pushed away from the mantel, glanced at the framed family photo, one of the few where I hadn't been cropped at the edge, and smiled with all her teeth. "Chin up," she said. "Curate." She glided out, I could still hear telling laughter as she reached the kitchen doorway, bright as a glass, breaking 2 rooms away. I walked toward Nana's door because my legs insisted on it. I knocked softly and stepped inside at her answer. The room smelled of lemon oil and dried lavender, the music box lid closed, the surface of its lacquered wood catching a soft ellipse of afternoon light. Nana looked up from the edge of her bed, her hands folded, eyes already knowing too much. "Annie," she said quietly, "is Sienna treating you unkindly?" I opened my mouth, and the truth came out, as if it had been waiting on my tongue for weeks. I told her about the apron and the mirror and the influencer smile. I told her about the subtle corrections, the staged kindnesses, the insistence on titles. When I reached the line about God and the baby, I couldn't keep my voice from breaking. Nana's eyes did not water. They sharpened. "Then she listens where she shouldn't," she said, each word set down with the precision of a chess piece. "Likely from this very hallway. She knew about the—" I swallowed. "She wasn't supposed to know." Nana patted the bed beside her. "Come sit." When I did, she reached for my hand, her fingers cool and surprisingly strong. "Let me tell you a story," she said. "Once I knew a woman who wore a smile like pearls and a tongue like a knife. She believed no one noticed how she sliced at the softest places. She was wrong. The steam from our tea coiled like a ribbon around the moment. I asked, 'What did you do?' 'I learned not to chase her lies,' Nana said. 'I learned to let them come home on their own.'" She rose slowly, walked to the door, and with an old house intimacy she knew by heart, pressed the toe of her slipper on a warped hallway plank that sighed like an instrument warming. "Hear that?" she said. "This house carries voices in peculiar ways. It's been doing it since your husband was small enough to hide under tables." My mouth went dry. "You think she—" Nana lifted a finger. "We don't need to think. We can know." She unlatched the door but kept it mostly closed, the brass catching a stripe of light. "Say something kind to me, but say it as if it's a secret," she murmured. "Then say something that would tempt a gossiper." It felt theatrical and cruel until I remembered the way Sienna's words had pressed into the bruise of my loss. I leaned toward Nana and whispered a line I had spoken here once in a voice too small. "I wish I could give you a great-grandchild." The words shook. I hated them and wanted them back all at once. Then I added, "Harper loved the apron, but Sienna's already trying to make me smaller." We waited. The house waited with us. Beyond the cracked door, shadows moved and stilled. A breath that was not mine paused. The music box on the dresser, still closed, ticked once as if catching the weight of the air. Nana's eyes met mine. No triumph, only confirmation. She closed the door softly, slid the latch, and exhaled. "Good," she said. "Now we don't need to tell a soul what we suspect. We invite truth to sit at the table and see who refuses a chair." I closed my eyes. "I don't want a war." "We will not make one," she said. "We'll make tea." She smiled then, and it felt like a door opening to a breezy morning. "And we'll set one little plan in place. Not a trap, Annie, a mirror. We'll hold it steady, and we'll allow her to step in front of it." "What plan?" "First," she said, "we sew." She moved to the dresser and took out a square of soft sky blue fabric, the kind that wants to be something gentle. From a tin, she lifted a spool of silver thread the color of moonlit water, and a small embroidery hoop with a hinge like a clasped hand. "When people tug," she murmured, easing the fabric into the hoop, "the true pattern shows." "Henry will help," she added, eyes bright with a memory. "He taught Luke and Marcus their first stitches on a rainy day when the power was out. They were bored, and I was stubborn, and the men in this family learned the quiet work of making something hold." Her face softened. "I want that memory alive in this house, not the creak of eavesdropping." She placed the hoop in my lap. The fabric was cool, smooth, full of promise. "We'll send a gift where it can't be staged for a camera," she said. "We'll send it to her mother's address, where habit will do what it does, and we'll write a note that tells only the truth." She tilted her head. "If the truth ends up in the trash, it won't be because our hands were cruel." A tremor of relief moved through me, mixed with anger, mixed with a kind of tired hope. "And if she lies again, then the house won't be the only thing that remembers," Nana said. "Harper will, Henry will, Luke will, maybe last, but he will." She walked to the music box and opened the lid. The tiny ballerina inside lifted her chin and began to turn. the tune bright and tinny and somehow brave. Marcus knocked and stepped in, careful, like a man entering a sanctuary. He took in the hoop, the thread, the music box, and the steadiness in Nana's posture. "Everything okay?" Nana nodded. "We're thinking about gifts," she said. "The kind that last." He looked at me, questions pooling in his eyes, but he only reached to squeeze my shoulder. "Whatever you need, I'm here." I threaded the needle. The silver caught the light and made a thin, shining path from my fingers to the fabric. It looked like a line that could stitch a horizon to the edge of a shore. Outside the closed door, somewhere down the hallway, a floorboard murmured and then went quiet. Nana turned the music box's key once, twice, 3 times, the sound like a little clock deciding to be a bell. She leaned closer, voice warm and even. "If she's listening," she whispered to the air, "let her listen to this." The music fluttered through the room, and for a heartbeat, I thought I heard a breath catch on the other side of the door. I bowed my head over the hoop and made the first careful stitch, silver sliding into blue. The baby came in the sharp blue of winter, born in a hospital near Sienna's parents' home. Luke's texts arrived like flares, exclamation marks, heart emojis, photos blurred with joy. Harper and Henry left immediately to visit, returning with the kind of glow you can't fake. Marcus showed me the photos on his phone, holding it as if it were proof that something good still lived inside the family. I smiled, truly. But my heart twisted, remembering the words Sienna had thrown, like confetti made of glass. God gave me the first baby. We still sent gifts. Marcus wrote the check for Luke, neat signature, practical generosity. For Sienna, I prepared something different. A soft onesie in sky blue cotton, the baby's name embroidered across the chest. I asked Henry to help with the stitching. He was hesitant at first. "It's been years since I picked up a needle," he murmured. But when I placed the hoop and silver thread in his hands, something softened in him. He showed Marcus how to loop the thread, how to anchor a letter with patience, how to make each stitch carry weight. 3 generations bent over fabric in the quiet kitchen light, hands bridging time. For a brief hour, it felt like healing. We folded the onesie carefully, placed it in a package with a note. "From our hands to yours, with love." It went not to Sienna's polished doorstep, but to her parents' address. Away from cameras, away from curated perfection. Days passed, then a week. No text, no call, no thank you. I let it go, but Nana didn't. One afternoon, she beckoned me into her room. Harper and Henry were in the kitchen. Marcus lingered by the doorway, uncertain. Nana's voice was steady. "Call her." "Call?" My throat dried. "On speaker," Nana said. "The house should hear the truth, not whispers." My fingers shook as I dialed. Sienna answered on the 3rd ring, her tone already defensive. "Oh, Annie, what's this about? Calling for a thank you for that homemade thing you sent?" A scoff. "Seriously?" The words landed like knives, but I kept my voice calm. "Did you throw it out?" "Of course. Looked like something from a craft fair clearance bin. Honestly, Annie, just send a stroller next time." Silence filled the room, heavy as stone. Then I asked, very softly, "Did you check inside?" A pause, rustling on the other end. "What?" "The letter. The name embroidered across the chest. Henry helped me sew it." Her voice faltered. "Wait, what? Henry?" More rustling, muffled voices in the background. "Mom, where's that bag I threw out?" "The baby thing. I thought it was garbage." My heart pounded. Sienna's voice came back, syrupy now, cracked at the edges. "Okay, Annie, I think there's been a misunderstanding. My mom must have tossed it. I didn't know. I'm sure it was lovely. Could you maybe make another one, just this once?" "The one you called garbage?" I asked. A nervous laugh. "I didn't mean it like that. Luke would be heartbroken if he knew. Please." I looked at Nana. Her gaze was steady, her nod small but clear. "Fine," I said. "Just this once, for Henry's sake." When the call ended, Harper and Henry stepped from the kitchen doorway. They had heard every word. Harper's face was pale. Henry looked down at his hands, the ones that had stitched silver into blue. "She threw it away," Harper whispered, stunned. "She lied," Henry said quietly, as if naming it made it heavier. "And then lied again," Nana added, her voice soft as a knife sliding back into its sheath. "She's been playing a game, but today she lost a turn." A few days later, Luke and Sienna came over with their baby. The living room brimmed with coos and compliments. Marcus took photos, Harper handed the baby a rattle, Henry hovered like a quiet guardian. Sienna beamed, her smile polished. "Oh, and look at this," she announced, lifting a new baby outfit from a gift box. "Isn't it adorable? Fits like a dream. Annie made it." The stitching was not mine, the thread not silver. Harper narrowed her eyes, recognizing the difference. The stitching looks even finer than before." Sienna laughed lightly. "Oh, maybe. Just lucky." I caught Nana's glance across the room. She said nothing, her silence louder than Sienna's performance. Then came the moment that turned air into glass. "May I hold him?" Nana asked, reaching out with careful hands. Sienna hesitated. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. "Actually, could you sanitize first? Just in case. Flu season, you know." The room froze. Harper's fork stilled. Henry's jaw set. Marcus lowered his phone. Nana drew her hand back slowly, her expression unchanged. She smiled, not sweetly, but knowingly. "Sometimes masks slip when you least expect it," she murmured. "Right, Sienna?" Sienna blinked. What?" "Nothing," Nana said, her voice calm. She reached for her tea instead. The room carried on in uneasy quiet, but something had shifted. Sienna's laugh pitched too high, her eyes flicking toward Nana every few seconds. Later, on the porch, I sat beside Nana. The stars overhead seemed brittle. "She won't stop," I whispered. "She twists everything, and today she lied again." "I know," Nana said. "Why didn't you say anything?" She sipped her tea, gaze fixed on the night sky. "Because some truths are best served warm, and tomorrow is my birthday." I looked at her, startled. "You're planning something." Her lips curved. "Just inviting someone to dinner." The next morning, Sienna texted me, "Hey, can you help me cook for Nana's birthday? I'm a little behind." I stared at the message, then typed, "I'm sorry, Sienna. No, she's had my cooking before. She'll know the difference." The 3 dots appeared, then vanished. I set the phone down. Marcus stood in the doorway watching. "She thought you'd cover for her again," he said. "She always does." Nana's birthday arrived on a breezy Saturday. Harper had transformed the dining room with eucalyptus and peach-colored candles. Luke carried the baby seat in, proud and tired. Sienna followed, arms full of gleaming white boxes with gold ribbons. "Everything smells amazing," Harper said warmly. Sienna beamed. "Well, I did spend all night cooking." Marcus raised an eyebrow at me. I said nothing. We sat down. Nana entered in a soft blue cardigan I had knit for her last year, her silver hair pinned back, her eyes alert. She moved slowly, but her presence filled the room. Sienna leaned across the table. "Nana, we really hope you like everything. I tried to make your favorite rosemary chicken and sweet potatoes, just like you used to make." "That's thoughtful," Nana said. "You cooked all this yourself?" Sienna nodded, posture perfect. "I'm not sure if it tastes exactly right, but I did my best." The food was delicious. Too delicious. Perfectly seasoned, plated, professional, and there, half peeled from a pan at the edge of the sideboard, was a discreet catering sticker catching the light. I looked away before my smile betrayed me. As dessert plates were cleared, Sienna slid a silver-wrapped box toward Nana. "Just a little something. I hope you'll wear it." Inside lay a cashmere shawl with an embroidered Parisian label. "Oh, this looks expensive," Nana said, touching the material, "but a bit fancy for an old porch sitter like me." She folded it carefully. "Would you mind returning it, dear? Something simpler would suit me more." Sienna faltered, color draining from her cheeks. "Oh, sure, of course." Nana looked up, her eyes twinkling. "You know what would really be the perfect gift?" Sienna leaned in, eager. "Anything, Nana." "Move in with us," Nana said sweetly. "I could eat your homemade cooking every day. Wouldn't that be wonderful, Henry?" Henry nearly choked on his wine. "Absolutely. Nothing like home-cooked meals." Harper pressed a napkin to her lips, hiding a smile. Sienna's throat bobbed. "You want me to move in?" "Of course," Nana said. "We could turn the guest room into a nursery. You wouldn't have to lift a finger. Just feed us those delicious meals." Luke grinned, oblivious. "That'd be cozy." But Sienna's poise cracked. Her voice trembled. "Actually, She stopped. Then, almost in a whisper, "I didn't cook anything today." Forks stilled. The baby whimpered. Silence tightened around the table. Nana leaned forward slightly, her eyes never leaving Sienna's face. "Well, you should have just said that. But tell me, dear, what else haven't you told the truth about?" The air shattered into stillness. The silence at the table was heavier than stone. Sienna's confession still hung in the air like smoke no one could wave away. Her fork clinked against her plate when she set it down too quickly. I only wanted things to be perfect, she stammered, her gaze darting from Luke to Harper, then to Nana's unwavering eyes. Perfect? Harper's voice was quiet, too quiet. She laid her napkin neatly on the table. You've lied, mocked Annie, disrespected Nana, tossed out something Henry helped make, and smiled through every moment of it. Was that your version of perfect? Henry's jaw tightened. He reached for his glass of water but didn't drink, his thumb rubbing against the rim as though it were a thread he could smooth back into place. I taught my boys to sew their first stitches, he said softly, eyes not on Sienna but on Luke. Not because they'd ever need to. Because they should know the patience it takes to make something hold. His throat bobbed, and you threw it away. Sienna's face blanched. It wasn't, I didn't know. I thought Annie, me, pulled my phone from my pocket, unlocked the screen, and set it on the table. A single photo glowed against the candlelight. The text she had sent me. Can you cover for my cooking? Sienna's breath caught. You save that? Nana's voice was calm. Truth doesn't need saving. It just needs to be seen. Luke's eyes moved from the phone to the shawl, still folded by Nana's plate, to the pan with its half-peeled catering sticker, and finally to the woman beside him. His wife, his partner. His mouth opened, but no words came. Instead, he turned to the baby seat, lifted his son carefully, and cradled him against his chest. He rocked slowly, quietly, like he was reminding himself what steady felt like. No more, Luke said finally, his voice low but sure. Sienna's head snapped toward him. What? You're siding with them? I'm siding with the person who didn't lie to my family, he answered, and who didn't throw my father's gift in the trash. The baby stirred, whimpered, then calmed again against Luke's chest. Sienna stood, chest heaving, her poise unraveling in real time. What do you people want from me? Her voice cracked. You act like I'm the monster here. Do you know what it's like to marry into a family that looks at you like you'll never belong unless you perform? Do you? My parents... She bit the words. They raised me to win, to keep face, to never let cracks show. That's all I know. Nana's gaze softened, though it didn't waver. Kindness isn't a performance, tu sais, she said. It's a choice. Sienna's eyes flickered. Where am I supposed to go? Harper rose, crossed the room with slow deliberation, and took a coat from the back of a chair. She held it out. Her face was neither cruel nor smug, only resolved. Back to the people who taught you cruelty as strength. Sienna's lips parted. She looked at Luke one last time, then at each of us, waiting perhaps for someone to stop her. No one did. She left, the door shut behind her like a chapter closing without a bookmark. The weeks that followed unraveled her marriage thread by thread. Luke filed for divorce, the papers arriving crisp and clinical. Sienna's texts became a carousel of tones, pleading, guilt-laden, bargaining for money in exchange for shared custody. Luke rarely replied. When he did, it was brief. Boundaries where there had once been silence. Her parents, embarrassed, offered alimony on her behalf. They even apologized to Luke in hushed voices over coffee, shaking their heads as if they, too, were trying to unspool a lifetime of teaching cruelty. Life didn't heal overnight, but it began to. Luke met Anna at the clinic where she worked, a nurse who smelled faintly of flour from baking on her days off, who listened more than she spoke, who once asked Nana if roses thrived better in morning sun or late afternoon light. The baby adored her instantly, tugging at her hair and giggling. They moved into an apartment close enough to Harper and Henry's that Sunday dinners no longer felt like obligations, but choices. For me, the healing came in quieter ways. Marcus and I stayed with his parents for a while after Luke moved out. When I became pregnant again, I carried both joy and fear in equal measure. Nana helped me prepare a nursery in the sunniest corner of the house. Twin daughters came, Lily and Jasmine, tiny hands, wide eyes, voices that turned our nights into music. It was Nana who suggested their names. Your name means flower, she told me once. I thought your daughters should bloom from that. We hung the music box above the nursery window. The same music box that had once warned us of creaks and shadows now played a full tune without faltering. No footsteps paused outside the door anymore. Harper changed too. One evening, I found her on the porch with Henry, watching the twins crawl across a blanket in the yard. She didn't look at me when she spoke. I mistook polish for virtue, she admitted softly. I won't make that mistake again." Henry rubbed his thumb over a length of silver thread he still carried in his pocket, a remnant from the onesie. "It's the handmade things that hold," he said. "Always has been." Now, on quiet evenings, Nana sits on the porch wrapped in the blue cardigan I knit for her. Mint tea steams in her cup as she watches the twins build sand towers in the sandbox. Sometimes they bring her clumps of dirt and call them cakes. Sometimes they press shells into her hands as if they were jewels. And every time, without fail, she grins and says, "Delicious." Marcus once asked me how I stayed calm through everything. "Because I had Nana," I told him. And I still do. Every stitch, every cup of tea, every quiet hand squeezing mine in the worst moments. She was there. She is here. I look at her now, silver hair catching the sunset, laughter tangled with the giggles of my daughters, and I think, please, Nana, live a long, long life. Keep watching them grow. The music box plays from the nursery window, its tune unbroken, its little ballerina turning slowly, gracefully, no shadows lingering, no ears pressed to doors, just music, just love, just the steady work of making things hold.